The Starlight Cantina on Station Kepler 442 was the kind of establishment where species from across 3 galactic sectors came to forget their troubles. Neon lights flickered against metal walls, and the air hummed with a dozen different atmospheric processors working overtime to accommodate oxygen breathers, methane breathers, and everything in between. Olivia Chen sat in her usual corner booth, nursing a glass of Tyrone whiskey while reviewing supply manifests on her desk. At 23, she was young to be running independent cargo operations, but her father had taught her well before the war took him. The old Marine's lessons about discipline, honor, and protecting those who couldn't protect themselves had shaped her more than any academy ever could. Beside her, curled on the reinforced bench, was Albino Dwarf Dragon, no bigger than a house cat. His scales gleamed pure white, his pink eyes occasionally blinking as he dozed. Albinism was rare among his kind, making him an oddity even in a galaxy full of strange creatures. Olivia had found him half-starved on Proxima Station 3 years ago, and they'd been inseparable since. The trouble started when a group of Krill mercenaries stumbled in, their katanas exoskeletons clicking as they moved. They were drunk on something stronger than beer, their translator devices garbling their harsh, clicking language into barely coherent standard. "Look at that," one of them chittered, pointing a serrated appendage at Ember, a little ghost lizard. Olivia's jaw tightened, but she kept her eyes on her desk. Experience had taught her that engaging with drunk Krill rarely ended well. "I bet it can't even breathe fire," another Krill laughed. "Pathetic creature. Probably defective." The insults continued, growing cruder. Ember stirred, his small head lifting, nostrils flaring. Olivia placed a gentle hand on his back. "Easy, buddy," she murmured. "They're not worth it." But the Krill weren't done. The largest of the group is only 7 feet tall with battle scars. Across his carapace grabbed a full container of krill beer and hurled it at their booth. The metallic canister struck Ember directly, knocking him off the bench with a startled squeak. The cantina went silent. Olivia moved before conscious thought took over. She was across the space in 3 strides, her father's training flowing through muscle memory. The lead krill barely had time to register her approach before her boot connected with the joint in his leg. The exoskeleton cracked with a satisfying sound, and he dropped to one knee. "You just made a very big mistake," Olivia said, her voice cold enough to frost the viewport. The other krill moved to surround her. There were 5 of them, each outweighing her by at least 100 pounds, armed with natural weapons that could tear through body armor. "Human female thinks she's tough," one hissed. "We'll show you what happens to." That's when Ember decided he'd had enough. The tiny dragon launched himself from the booth with a shriek that shouldn't have been possible from something his size. His jaws unhinged, and a torrent of white-hot flame erupted forth, not the decorative puff of fire his species was known for, but a concentrated plasma jet that turned the air itself into a weapon. The krill screamed as their antennae ignited. They scattered, beating at the flames, but Ember was just getting started. He darted between them with impossible speed, his small size suddenly an advantage. A bite here, severing a sensory cluster. A claw there, finding the gaps in exoskeleton armor with surgical precision. But what truly terrified the mercenaries was when Olivia joined the dance. Human combat doctrine, refined through centuries of warfare, met dragon fury in perfect synchronization. Olivia had trained with Ember for years, and they moved like parts of a single organism. Where she struck high, he struck low. When she drew attention, he attacked from behind. Her tactical mind provided strategy. His instincts provided chaos. One krill tried to flee. Olivia grabbed a serving tray and hurled it like a discus, striking the back of his head and sending him sprawling. Ember was there instantly, pinning the creature's communication antenna with one claw. "Please," the lead krill gasped, ichor leaking from the crack in his leg. "We didn't know." "We didn't know." "Didn't know what?" Olivia demanded, her boot on his thorax. "That he could defend himself, that he had a friend, that you were, that he was." The krill's translator struggled with the panicked clicking. "Humans and dragons. The old legends, we thought they were myths." Olivia exchanged a glance with Ember, who sat on his haunches, smoke curling from his nostrils. She'd heard the stories to ancient human folklore about knights and dragons, either as enemies or companions. But those were Earth stories, from before humanity reached the stars. "Let me educate you," Olivia said, crouching down so she was level with the krill's compound eyes. "My father was a Marine. He fought in the Titan Wars. Before he died, he taught me that strength isn't about size or weapons. It's about loyalty. It's about protecting those who matter." She gestured to Ember, who hopped onto her shoulder. "This defective ghost lizard pulled me out of a burning ship on Europa. He sat with me through nightmares and panic attacks. He's the best friend I've ever had." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "And if you ever disrespect him again, what just happened will seem like mercy." The station security finally arrived, their magnetic boots clanking against the deck. The Krill were all too happy to be arrested, eager to escape the tiny terror that had humiliated them. As the cantina slowly returned to normal, the bartender, a six-armed Quellan, approached Olivia's booth. "Your drinks are on the house tonight," he said, all six hands gesturing respectfully. "Your father would be proud." Olivia smiled, scratching Ember behind his tiny horns. Yeah, he would be." Later, as they walked back to her ship through the station's corridors, Ember chirped contentedly. Olivia pulled up a holomage of her father in his marine dress uniform, his weathered face creased in a smile. "We're doing okay, Dad," she whispered, "still fighting the good fights." Ember nuzzled her cheek, his scales warm against her skin. In a galaxy filled with thousands of species, where humanity was neither the strongest nor the most advanced, they'd found something more valuable than either, a bond that crossed the boundaries of species, size, and expectation. And anyone who underestimated that bond did so at their own peril. The stars shone through the viewport ahead, infinite and inviting. Somewhere out there, more adventures awaited, more cargo to run, more injustices too, right? More fools to educate about what happened when you messed with an albino dwarf dragon and his human sister. Olivia grinned. "Come on, Ember, let's go home."